The Spotlight brought to you by Beacon Plumbing.
Good evening and welcome to The Spotlight. Thanks for joining us. I'm David Rose. And tonight we're going to pay tribute to a hero.
You know what I'm saying? And I've lived my life as a Southern man, a stereotypical Southern man, to many degrees, even though. And I'm saying it ain't no solution. I think that's a bridge too far for a lot of people, man. A lot of people like, I secretly watch him. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of them watch me. They secretly watch me.
If you've been watching The Spotlight each week, you could almost see this coming. Repeat offenders are running wild. The violence and disregard for the law is rampant, and the politics aren't protecting people like they're intended to. And innocent victims are being hurt and killed every week.
At this rate,
You gotta take the positive.
Disturbing new details tonight about the dangerous combination of guns and children. Research in the New England Journal of Medicine shows the #1 cause of death for children ages 1 to 19 in 2020 was gun violence. And this is
just breathe that in. This is what George Floyd gave to America. George Floyd, this is what he did. This is what George Floyd gave America. The leading cause of death for children since George Floyd became a fucking poster child for black men has been fucking guns.
I can't imagine that's any other community other than the Sun community. That's got to be what's driving the statistic here.
Of course.
But the gall of them to act like this is it's an American problem. American kids are slaughtering each other in the streets.
This is like,
but it's not exclusive.
The truth is, the very small amount of Sun kids are slaughtering enough for an entire country's worth of crime.
Yeah, this shit is crazy, man. It's so much.
Unacceptable.
This is sick. The leading cause of death for kids. I could see fucking like drug dealers or fucking cops or fucking like soldiers.
Well, for a long time, I think homicide was the leading cause of death for Sun teens. And so,
and now since the numbers have gone up, it's driving the whole nation's numbers
now
up.
it's specifically gun homicide, I guess.
Jesus Christ.
This is the first time this gruesome milestone has been reached,
St. Fenty,
surpassing car crashes, overdoses, and cancer deaths. Our Emma Henderson looks at what's being done now.
We're literally a cancer. Wow.
New England Journal of Medicine shows the #1 cause of death for children ages 1 to 19 in 2020 was gun violence. And this is the first time this gruesome milestone has been reached, surpassing car crashes, overdoses, and cancer deaths. Our Emma Henderson looks at what's being done now to combat the problem right here in Northeast Ohio.
Between 2020, more than 4,300 children died because of guns in the United States, according to CDC mortality data, a 29% increase in just 1 year.
You try to take a public health approach to
that balloon release. Everything you need to know about it.
This is so whoever's doing the editing here is trying to get the message out.
And if American salesman comes to the shore of Japan, let's say 60 or 70 years from now back, and says, "Oh, I have a very beautiful vacuum cleaner for you, with the good financing," he says, "Please leave us. We don't need your vacuum cleaner." If they don't leave, they shoot them to preserve their culture, ideology, traditions, values intact. You were not able to subvert Japan. You cannot subvert Soviet Union because the borders are closed. The media is censored by the government. The population is controlled by the KGB and internal police. With all the beautiful glossy pictures of Time magazine and Magazine America, which is published by the American embassy in Moscow, you cannot subvert Soviet citizens because the magazine never reaches Soviet citizens. It's collected from the newsstands and thrown to garbage can.
71-year-old man is accused of inappropriately touching a 12-year-old girl at the Walmart in...
That was that week. You can go back in the archives and check out that program. And even I think the transcript might be available for when he was on CNN in August of 2014, so you can see like exactly what he said. Because I looked at the video, and he didn't say anything about racism. And then I went to the transcript to make sure I didn't miss it. Like, you know, sometimes they'll cut something out, and nothing there. And then I asked him on the program, and he said no, he didn't. But you can go look right now if you have a little free time or so. Interested. I cannot stand CNN. I never watch their coverage for anything. Let's see. Anywho, archivist. Email untiljustice@gmail.com. Archivist, if folks would like to take on that task, that would be super appreciated, and I see a value. Just Exhibit A would be what we're going to listen to today. Dr. Welsing, towards the end of the segment that we heard, she talked about the killing and murder, how she watches TV, China television, and she sees building, development, growth, engineering, you know. Wow, improving the city. And she says, you look at the television, killing, murder, murder mystery. What's on Netflix? Killing, yes. Ted Bundy, yes. Tiger King, yes. Killing, Central Park 5, yes. Killing and raping niggers. Just lots of killing and murders. That's all that's on television. Even right now with killing. Yes, let's look at the other angle for how George Floyd was strangled. And then the protesters, we'll get to see how some of them were shot and killed. And all of it. I think one of the protesters that were shot and killed, I think they got that on camera. So, I mean, just sit around and watch people die, frequently non-white people, frequently black people, live or on television. Just sit around and watch killing and murder. I think I've commented on that a few times, and how bizarre that is. And that I think if we got to see what a system of justice looks like, or at least something other than a system of white supremacy, preferably a system of justice, it would just stand like, wow, people are not just sitting around and watching who done it, and, you know, who strangled the fella in the kitchen with the bathroom rug and all the rest of it. I mean, it's like, whoa, who is watching this? Like, we're doing constructive things and, you know, 1,000 vegan recipes and all the like.
But the result is the same. The next stage is normalization. Normalization is a very ironic word, of course. It is borrowed from 1968 situation in Czechoslovakia, when the Soviet propaganda and after them New York Times declared the country is normalized. The tanks moved into Prague, so there is no more Prague Spring, there is no more violence. Normalization. At that stage, the self-appointed rulers of the society don't need any revolution anymore. They don't need any radicalism anymore. So this is the reverse from destabilization. Basically, it is stabilizing the country by force.
Think about it, man. One of the safest big cities in the country, that's required. All that. All those resources, all that attention, and it still doesn't seem to be doing anything. I mean, Cincinnati.
We need more programs, dog.
I mean, I hear about Chicago, but I never hear about Cincinnati. You never hear about Cincinnati. You never heard one time someone say, man, Cincinnati, rough as hell. It doesn't even register. There's 1,000 cities in this country that are just like this that don't ever even. It's just everywhere we are. It's the same thing. It's just the same thing. But
the brothers are there. It's rough as hell. You and me.
Yeah. It doesn't make me happy to say that, man. Let's see this.
To 37 years to life in prison for a deadly shooting. Mario to 37 years to life in prison for a deadly shooting. Mario Gibson was charged in the shooting death of Aisha Williams in 2016. Williams was shot in a truck on Reading Road in Bond Hill. At the time, officers said they believed that she wasn't alone in that truck and that someone had run away after shots were fired. They arrested Gibson and Akiame Daniels 3 years later. Daniels is expected to enter a plea in the case next month.
So, some men running down on sisters, broad daylight.
That guy
Like
looked rough. He had a record too, I bet.
Yeah, sounds like Sun America.
Stuff like this is why the Punisher and the Equalizer were invented as comic book characters.
You don't understand. I'm not hiding behind anything. I don't have any attorney here. I'm not going to hide behind that technicality of saying, oh, you shouldn't say this, and oh, you shouldn't say that. If the truth isn't enough, listen, if don't go passing statements of morality saying, well, this was not warranted, or this was, you should have done this, or all you had to do was show the gun. I've been in situations where I've shown the gun. It's all very cold-blooded, and this is going to offend everyone. I went back to the other two to check on them. And the fellow who was standing up, I was sure I'd shot him. And I said, you seem to be doing all right. Here's another.
Exactly. And in those comic books, the villains are always white. But
did you say Cincinnati was one of the safest cities in the country?
Big cities.
It's number 10. It's number 10 for murder.
Yeah, but he's probably talking about crime in general. They're probably fudging. They're probably, you know how they do. They play games with these numbers. They're probably talking about in general. But I mean, it's number 10 for murder. So
yeah.
We begin tonight with breaking news out of Hamilton. That is where two teens are recovering after a shooting. Police say several teens were driving out of the Circle K store on Central Avenue just before 9 tonight when someone started shooting at their car. The two closest to the door were hit. They drove a few blocks to Barney's Bar before walking to their homes, which were nearby. Neighbors and family called police. Right now, investigators do not have any suspect information.
They call police.
Yep. So yeah.
Oh shit! I got shot. I'm going to Barney's. What the fuck?
Listen, man. It's a rough place, man. Very, very rough place, man. I'm gonna let y'all wrap for a second. I gotta do something, but then I'm gonna come back and give me another seat when I come back.
If you can make it in the stand, you can make it anywhere.
Well, do remember, check out the merch shop, check out the Patreon, hit the Cash App, hit the PayPal.
Context is so important. Context is what helps us to process and even make sense of information. In fact, if you have data without context, it's not even information. You can't even make sense of it. You can't even process it if you don't have proper, full context. He talks about it in application to many different things, news and how we understand the world that we live in, the importance of reading. Very important, that concept of context. So the dictionary defines context as the circumstances that form the setting for an event, statement, or idea in terms of which it can be fully understood and assessed. Nice definition. Their next definition: the parts of something written or spoken that immediately precede and follow a word or passage and clarify its meaning.
They've done their job already. Okay? They are not needed anymore. The new rulers need stability to exploit the nation, to exploit the country, to take advantages of the victory. Okay? So no more revolutionaries, please.
Like that one as well. Very deliberate, the naming of this program, Context of White Supremacy. Dr. Welsing uses that exact phrasing in the ISIS papers, Context of White Supremacy, although I didn't read it in her book and say, oh, that's a good name for a program. How we make sense of the world in which we live. Context is important. Replacing white supremacy with justice and doing her best to heal black people. She did have that title, medical doctor, and she, you know, man, judge her by her works for sure. Right in the middle of the unrest in Ferguson, Missouri, if people recall, that was right after the shooting of Michael Brown Jr. In Ferguson. Eric Garner had been killed by NYPD just about a month before. Marlene Pinnock, black female, was beaten by California Highway Patrolmen, although she wasn't killed, thankfully. But there had been a lot of incidents. Jonathan Crawford III was shot at the Walmart that August. There had been a lot of incidents, much like now, that had happened leading up to the Michael Brown Jr. situation, and, you know, it pretty much ended up the same way that it is now, with the protests, marches, all of that back in 2014. So that's when Dr. Welsing was on the program.
Keep y'all up to date, man. Y'all see that right there? Is that big and bold for you, man? Is that big and bold enough for you, man? Do you see that? So far, salute. Jimmy the Gent says prayers and to the victims and their families. Unfortunately, though, in most of the mass shootings this weekend, it was a lot of people shot and not a lot of people killed, because Sunmen mass shootings usually a lot of times just be shootouts. They just so reckless. You know, Sunmen so reckless that they'll just have a shootout in a public place and hit everybody but the person they're shooting at. So both sides are shooting at each other, and both sides are hitting everybody except for each other. That's basically what happened in a couple of these mass shootings. But here's the thing, man. Here's the thing right here. What's up, Jim?
What's up, Ak?
Here's the thing right here. Look at this. Do you see? Can you see that? Can you see that on the screen, Jim?
Yeah, your Twitter.
Yeah.
Yep.
So far in April, there have been 7 mass shootings with 9 or more victims. So these are super mass shootings. In each one, the shooters are black. All these, I checked all these out. Every one of these, the shooters is black. Every one of them.
Yeah, I got nothing to say on that.
What can you say about that? Like,
I mean, if it was Crouching Tigers, we'd be talking about, man, you know, Crouching Tigers are going wild this year. You know, I feel like we would be.
These are not the mass shootings. These are the 9 or more, because the mass shootings 4 or more. This list is just the ones from this month that have 9 or more, and it's the 17th, right? Or the 18th, right? The month ain't over.
17th.
Yeah, the month ain't over. 2 of them were in the same state. Hold on. 2 of them were in, hello? 2 of them were in the same state. 2 of them were in the same state. Oh, shit. My wife. Oh, shit. Yeah, but 2 of them were in the same state. 2 of them in the same state. You got Black Gen Z in the building. Good. All right. Hey, Black Gen Z.
What up?
You go ahead and share your screen. I gotta go the baby. I gotta go do something for the baby.
Okay. Give me 1 second. Let me see. I'm gonna just share it to
Yeah, now
random.
take your time.
All right.
But yeah, man.
I just got an alert. There was another shooting in South Carolina at a restaurant.
Do you see how he's making a statement about reality, that this is a very important topic and point for discussion? It's really the biggest problem that America has is the problem of race, which I find fascinating, that embedded in the word America itself is the phrase, I am race. See, you can throw the letters up and try to come up with any other phrase, but the phrase, I am race, can be made out of the word America. So this is a fundamental question to America and to the world, because the majority of the people on this planet are people of color, black, brown, red, and yellow people. And the people who classify themselves as white are a tiny, tiny minority. And, you know, many of them, according to an article that was recently in the Washington Post, that the majority of people who classify themselves as white are fearful about the coming minority status of white people in this area of the world. And it's like when President Obama became president. It wasn't white people cheering, oh, well, finally we are embracing and voting for a black person to be president of the United States. What did people do? People who classify themselves as white, many of whom went out and bought guns. And they even referred to this mass gun buying as the Obama effect. Everybody had to go out and get their great equalizer.
If you take a rat, okay, I was vicious. I don't deny it. I told the guys, I don't know if it's in this statement, but if you take a rat.
Because at least on the surface it appeared that a black man was going to be in charge. And the expression in the game of billiards or pool, you don't want to be caught behind the 8-ball. That means you don't want to be caught, even though the way that the game is played, the game is about racism also. But even though it applies to the game itself, in reality, if people who classify themselves as white find themselves behind the 8-ball, it would imply that black had power. And if blacks have power, then they have the fear of white genetic annihilation and white genetic vulnerability. Let me also say this, LeVar. You know, many people have said to me, well, Dr. Welsing, you talk about people who classify themselves as white having the fear of white genetic annihilation. Well, how would you explain the number of white women who are marrying black men, or the number of white women who are with black men? That would seemingly contradict your statement that whites have a fear of genetic annihilation, because the children that come out of those unions are going to be children of color. That would seem to imply that you're wrong. And I said, if you look at the larger picture, if you look comprehensively as what is happening in the system as a whole, you will see that as there is an increase in the number of white females who are attaching themselves or involving themselves with black men. On the other side of the page, you've seen an escalating number of black men who are being killed by white men. Are you seeing what I'm suggesting?
Absolutely. I hope for listeners, I think what she is suggesting, you can tell me if I'm misinterpreting or if I'm in the ballpark, as you see programs like Scandal, where you got a black female with a white man, and President Obama, people are very aware he has a white mother, black father. that as you see these increasing incidents of what they call miscegenation, white women with a black male or vice versa, a white man with a black female, that you're seeing increasing incidents of direct violence, lethal violence being used against black people. You're saying, especially black males, that you're seeing both of these correlation between these two occurrences. Is that accurate?
Right. Well, it's particularly what is happening to black men. And interestingly, I have been informed that in Hitler's Nazi Germany, Hitler was about the business of white genetic survival and wanting Europe to remain white. And so when the Jewish people, the Semites of the Jewish religion, were allowed to come out of their ghettos and start going to the universities and opening up just the same way that black people in the civil rights era were, taken, given more freedom. That when Jewish men started marrying German women, when that reached its peak, that was when Adolf Hitler came to power. See, now this is insanity. That's like a black man is hanging in a tree. His genitals have been cut off, and he's been set on fire. And for black people to say, well, this is not about race. But white people are not being hung in trees, the white men's genitals cut off and set on fire. No, this is happening every week to black people. Just like black people being shot down every week. Are there some statistics that say every 29 hours?
Yes, ma'am. The Malcolm X Institute. This is old. That was published right after Trayvon Martin was killed in 2012. But it's every 28 hours, according to their report, a black person is killed by an enforcement officer.
Whoever's doing the editing here is trying to get the message out.
You know what I'm saying? And I've lived my life as a Southern man, a stereotypical Southern man, to many degrees, even though. And I'm saying it ain't no solution. I think that's a bridge too far for a lot of people, man. A lot of people I secretly watch him. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of them watch me. They secretly watch me. They just ain't gonna tell nobody.
It's only partly true. If we take the whole time, money, and manpower that the Soviet Union and KGB in particular spends outside of USSR border, we will discover, of course there are no official statistics unlike with CIA or FBI, that the espionage as such occupies only 10 to 15% of money, time, and manpower. 15% of the activity of KGB. The rest, 85%, is always subversion. And unlike a dictionary of English, Oxford Dictionary, subversion in Soviet terminology means always a destructive, aggressive activity aimed to destroy the country, nation, or geographical area of your enemy.
Drop the bag, Taylor. Go on, Snake. Go on, man. Taylor, drop the bag.